All right, well, as acting chair here today, I will call to order our May 28th, 2024 meeting of the Des Moines Waterworks Board of Trustees. We'll start it off with the consent agenda. Anything we need to talk about, or can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move the consent agenda.
And second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Same sign, opposed? Hearing none, approve the agenda. For consent, okay. Next up is public comment period. If anyone online or in the room? All right, okay. Seeing none, move on to our action items. Item 3A is approve proposed board policy manual revisions, spending authorities.
Alec, this is the same concept that came to the Finance and Audit Committee meeting this month. And Amy has a nice yellow in the board packet here, and also a copy of her memo that went to the Finance and Audit Committee is attached. And basically the bottom line is that this board is the members of this board are the stewards of Des Moines Waterworks funds, and all authority to spend those funds flows from the board through the approved budget. In addition to the budget, the board delegates a certain amount of authority to the CEO through the spending authority that's listed in the board policy manual. Currently, board policy defines that spending authority as $100,000. Our goal today is to clarify our collective understanding of what is intended in terms of certain types of spending, to ensure that we have the ongoing transparency that I know the board is interested in, and also to improve the efficiencies of some of our processes if possible. So in the memo, we have 4 recommendations that we're bringing before the board today, and I'll just go through those here very quickly. Item number 1 is that we're proposing that each year at budget time, we will bring a budget schedule that identifies specific purchases that exceed the CEO spending authority, and think of things that would be like a vehicle or a piece of equipment or a piece of software or something. We'll itemize those, we'll share those with the board at the time of budget to put a light on those and make sure everybody's aware of what we're proposing. Get those approved as part of the budget process, and then we won't plan to bring those back as individual board action items later in the year when the purchase is actually made. We think that the board policy gives us authority to do that today. We just want to make absolutely sure that the board has clarity that, hey, we're going to buy these pieces of equipment, we're going to buy these things. We don't want to, give you several hundred pages of budget documentation, expect you to ferret out those individual purchases. So we're proposing to do that and then not bring those back to the board. They would, of course, be a requirement that those be competitively bid at the time of purchase. But that's the first recommendation. The second recommendation is new language that will clarify adoption of the budget is approval for recurring expenses, including chemicals and power, etc. Again, we think that that's the board's intent, that we will pay the bills for power. It isn't uncommon at all for us to have a recurring bill that's in excess of $100,000. We pay those, and we just want to clarify that that's the intent. I believe that it is, but the language that we are proposing clarifies that. Related specifically to spending authority, we had a conversation before about spending authority, and there was some interest in it, indexing that or defining how we would determine what the spending authority of the CEO was, and also indexing it in a way that it could move with the budget, the size of the budget. And so what we're proposing is that we would index the CEO's spending authority to be a percentage of the operating budget. Specifically, we're recommending 0.2% of the operating budget for any given year, rounded up to the nearest $5,000. We purposely tried to land that pretty close to what it is today. That was the point. But that particular calculation would end up in a spending authority of $125,000 for this year, which is $25,000 more than the current spending authority. But we're recommending that that be indexed. And then fourth, and probably most importantly, frankly, from my perspective, is we're proposing that we develop spending authorities for the COO, Chief Operating Officer, and the CFO, Chief Financial Officer, of $50,000 each, so that they can function efficiently as they're approving requisitions and things on a day in and day out basis. Right now, the way that we've interpreted board policy is if there's anything that's in excess of $10,000 that they're going to purchase, they need to send me an email and get me to say that it's okay. And in fact, I had 2 of those from Kyle today. And so it's once we interpreted it that way, as we started looking at this process, we decided, well, that really isn't what the intent is. That isn't very helpful. You know, they get to their desk and are ready to approve requisitions, and there's one that's over 10,000. They have to send me an email, which isn't a big deal. But if I don't happen to be at my desk and I don't get back to my desk for a while, and I respond to them and they don't happen to be at their desk, and then they have to get back to their desk and log back into the software and approve it, that can be a day or 2 delay. So we're proposing that we would establish a spending authority for each of them. That's still, you know, the CEO is still completely responsible for all spending. This would just make it clear that if approved, that they do have, you know, the authority to approve requisitions up to $50,000 that are within their areas of work. John reviewed all this with us and helped us put this together to ensure that we're complying with provisions of the code related to the board's responsibility for budget oversight expenditures. And if approved, these changes would go into effect essentially immediately. I guess I'll stop there. See if there are questions. I guess we'll
Thanks.
take a motion.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. Can I get a motion to approve and adopt the proposed revisions to section 605, 609, 611, 302, and 208 board policy manual, effective immediately, direct staff to amend and restate board policy manual in the form presented.
So moved.
Second.
Before we get too much further, may I suggest a small modification of that motion at the end to just add and make conforming amendments to the board policy manual? Because there's a couple of places, if you do adopt these amendments, where, like the old CEO spending authorities reference, just update all the,
In all the appropriate ways.
in all the appropriate ways.
I would accept that amendment in my motion.
Okay, so in the minutes, it'll just be the motion plus and make conforming amendments to the board policy.
Not trying to make it easy on me.
So Ted, I'm going to ask a question that I think is obvious. But I want to make sure that we set it in the public. So CEO has the authority for $125,000, CFO and the COO have the authority for $50,000. This doesn't mean that the 3 of them could get together and approve something for $225,000. Is that correct?
That is correct. You are correct. 125 would be the new limit. That's the limit.
Right. I knew the answer to that, but I won't. I mean, you and I talked about this and it was talked about it in the committee meeting. I think what's happening here is important. I mean, but to me, it's not as important what the number is as far as a spending authority. $125,000 makes sense. And you could make it 150, you could make it 100. That doesn't matter so much to me. What matters to me, and I think what's important for good governance, is the transparency in what we do. And that's where it makes sense to me. If there's something in the budget that's approved and you're following the budget that's been approved, we're not here to micromanage those things as a board. And it's the same things with the spending authority. As long as you're approving things that are, you know, within the mission of the agency and all of that, and then it's reported back to us like you already do.
Mhm.
Then the public can see it, the board can see it, and it's, everything is, above board and on the table, and that's what's happening here, and so I support this, it makes sense to me.
Very good.
Yeah, I was part of this meeting when we kind of helped craft some of this and talk about it, and I support it. I think the other thing that I think about and trying to improve this, along with the transparency, is making it not so onerous for the checks and balances to
Absolutely.
become just green light check marks.
Right.
We wanted this to use the things where we really want to put eyeballs on, so I think this helps.
Yep, I think it is too. I think it's well done. Because we talked about this, this came up some months ago about, increasing the authority, and I objected to some degree, and you guys actually went and did something better here, I think, in the work of making this so that we actually improve the systems here. So the COO and the CFO, we're eliminating some obstacles from it, which we didn't do in the previous one, so it actually got better.
I agree, and we did kind of dive in and
Not that I'm taking credit for it. Not at all.
make some additional changes just to clarify and make sure there wasn't any perceived conflict between these sections, which is a lot of what why there's so many sections here is because spending is referred to in several different sections of board policy. I think, John has helped us do a nice job of aligning all those sections, so they say the same thing, so. It's good.
The questions or discussion? Short of that, can I get a vote or all in favor, of Graham's motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Same side of the opposed. Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 3B. Asphalytic. Got that? Concrete surface patch contract 2024-2025.
Alec, this is a contract that we bid each year. When we do excavations in the street where there's asphalt surface, we have to replace it with asphalt surface. And so we have a contractor who does that work for us. The bid this year is somewhat higher than last year. There was a certain amount of additional work added, about $20,000 added for after hours delivery of asphalt patching material after hours delivery and replacement. So if we have to do it outside of rush hour or something like that, we can still get it done. So there's a little bit of additional cost in there. When you factor that in, it's about a 16% increase, which is significant, but we have two bids. That's the lowest of the two. It's the same contractor we've used the last couple of years and they do a good job. And so staff is recommending that we award the contract to Iowa Contracting Corp.
In a motion to award the asphalytic concrete surface patch contract for 2024-2025 to Iowa Contracting Inc. in the amount of $322,000.
Sure, I so moved.
Second.
Question, so I guess thinking of asphalt is not a super highly technical thing. I guess kind of surprised there's only two bids.
Yeah, and normally we would have more bids than that. Historically, we have. But interestingly enough, one of the two bidders is who's done it the last couple of times. Sometimes when you have the same contractor who's low for a period of time, other bidders tend to lose interest a little bit. But there was an increase this year. That may attract more bidders next year. But there are 4 or 5 contractors who can do this, and we usually get 3 or 4 bids, but this year, just 2. We reached out to all the same contractors.
Okay.
But we just got 2 bids.
How many contractors is that? Check.
I do not know. Normally, we see 4 or 5 bids on this, so I would guess it's that kind of a range. There's a note here, I don't know that for sure, but is Jenny online?
Yeah, I would agree. Usually it's 4 or 5 that we send it out to, hoping to get 3 or 4 bids. Just ended up with 2 this year.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is opposed? The contract. Moving on to item 3C. concrete contract 2024-2025.
Alec, very similar to the asphalt. This is concrete. The difference here, of course, being that this is just providing the materials. Our folks actually place the concrete. Whereas with the asphalt, that contractor places the asphalt too, but similar to last year. Same contractor again was low, CTI, ready mix was low this year as opposed to last. An 8% increase over last year, but we had good competitive bids. I think this is a good price. I will highlight again this year that we do work with the city of Des Moines. They have a batching truck that is able to pour very small quantities of concrete, which we would pay a premium for if we had the concrete companies deliver. We intend to continue to work with them for very small patches. That's been a good partnership for many years. But that's outside of the scope of this award, but we would recommend that board award concrete contract to CTI Ready Mix.
Okay, can I have a motion to award the 2024-2025 concrete contract to CTI Ready Mix in the amount of $314,400?
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
Not much of an increase here.
Too bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, not as bad as asphalt.
That, all in favor?
Aye.
Same sign opposed? The agenda for this contract. Okay, item 3D, request authorization for CEO and general manager to execute a change order to increase earthwork quantities at Des Moines Waterworks grounds maintenance facility.
Alec, I know the board is aware that our grounds maintenance facility is coming along pretty well on the south side of George Flag. Just a short distance from where we are here today. That the property that we're building the ground shop on was previously residential lots. And after the flooding in '93, most of those homes were demolished and in some cases, apparently some of the demolition materials were just left on site. We did do some soil borings in advance of the construction, but those borings didn't entirely characterize what we're going to run into when we started working there. And so we had about 1,800 cubic yards of soil removal replacement estimated. We ended up having to do another about 1,200 yards of soil removal and replacement to get suitable material in there to build that new facility on. We don't want to build on rubble and trash. And so I did note in the Don noted in the memo here that there was a price for additional soil removal and replacement of $125. They were able to find a little bit closer site, and for all that additional soil, they billed us about $116.70, so a little bit of a discount, but it was over 1,200 cubic yards of additional soil. So that's going to result in a change order of $147,863. That will come to the board at the end when we go to accept the project. Because of the size of that one item, we want to bring that to the board for authorization before the end of the project. So we're looking for authorization to execute that change order, get good quality material for the foundation of the building there in the ground.
Okay, can I have a motion to authorize the CEO and general manager to execute a change order to increase earthwork quantities at Des Moines Waterworks grounds maintenance facility in the amount of $147,863.64?
So moved.
Second.
No questions or discussion, so we unfortunately just have to do this one. All in favor?
Aye.
That opposed? Motion carries. And on to item 3E. Request authorization to solicit bids for 2024 Des Moines water main replacement contract 3. Establish the date of public hearing as the date of the June 2024 board meeting.
Alec, this is one of our many water main replacement contracts. We're replacing water main on Indianola Avenue from Meadow Chase Lane to Meadow Court. That's in an area where the city is widening Indianola Avenue into 4 lanes. You're probably all familiar with that. We're going to replace about 1,200 feet of water main in that area. And we're requesting permission to bid that contract with an award at the June board meeting.
And I have a motion to authorize staff to solicit bids for the 2024 Des Moines Water Main Replacement Contract 3 project. Establish the date of the public hearing, the date of the June 2024 board meeting, and direct staff to publish notice as provided by law.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Same sign opposed. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 3F, request authorization for CEO and general manager to execute amendment number 3 to the professional services agreement with HDR Engineering, Inc. for Saylorville Water Treatment Plant Capacity Expansion Design and Construction Services.
Alec, this is the design of the treatment plant expansion at the Saylorville Water Treatment Plant, the 10 MGD expansion that we've been working on with our regional partners now for some time. It's a $13 million contract with the consultant. We've had a couple of other amendments to this agreement, both of which came to the board, and they're both highlighted there in the memo. But this amendment number 3 in the amount of $94,108 is an amendment that will allow the consultant to complete a desktop review and complete a bat habitat assessment for the locations in the vicinity of the project, specifically located in the vicinity of the wells. Something that's required by the DNR. I think it's actually a national requirement, Kyle. Something that we're going to have to do because of proximity to the river. So we're looking for permission to execute this amendment so that we can do the required bat habitat assessment.
I have a motion to authorize the CEO and general manager to execute amendment number 3 to the professional services agreement, HDR Engineering, Inc. Amount of $94,108 for this Saylorville Water Treatment Plant. I don't want to memorize yet. Capacity expansion project.
So moved. Or second.
Just, I guess a question on something like this. Is this a thing that we would have expected contractors to know? And or is this something that like someone could kind of like purposely leave out of their bid, even though they knew they would later have to add it back in as a way to be lower up front?
I don't know that it was something they would purposely leave out. I think it's a reasonable question, given that we're along the river in an area where sometimes you have this bat habitat sort of work. Would they need to do it? It wasn't in the scope that they gave us. Kyle, I don't know if you have a perspective on that, or Lindsay, was this something that was unexpected for some reason, or?
Maybe some environmental assessment of that. Came up with the Army Corps.
Is that because we're on core land primarily?
So, yeah, normally projects just take trees down. Keep down there at certain times. This will check the bats and then.
So there's a chance that you could do a project that wasn't on core land where this wouldn't be required. It's fine. The other thing is we only had one proposal on
Okay.
the project to begin with. You'll recall, we had a $13 million proposal. We talked about that's not definitely appropriate. So I don't suspect that they left it out intentionally so they could add it later. It's probably just something they were expecting to do. But granted, it's a lot of money for a bad habitat assessment for this.
Well, and may I ask, what is a desktop review? I mean,
So
that's,
looking at literature and stuff like that, and different. Research, I guess, so that's $25,000. And then if they have to do this field study, which may or may not have once done additional. So that makes something.
So this,
That field study is kind of iffy.
I see. So they're not just gonna send it to desktop and say, where have we seen that? Okay. I mean, when I saw desktop, I thought,
They just scroll Google Maps.
yeah. Glad to know that's not the case. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wasn't alleging anything with this. I was just kind of curious. It's like, oh, that'd be an interesting way to
Yeah.
keep your bid lower if you thought about it, like stuff that might not get caught, but. Anyways, any other questions or discussion? Please. All in favor of the support, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed, motion carries. Moving on to item 3G, 2023 Des Moines Water Main Replacement Contract 6.
this is our first public hearing, Alec. If you want to
Oh, yeah.
open the public hearing.
So this is a public hearing, so I'll now open the public hearing for comments from the public regarding the form of contract plans and specifications and estimated cost. Ed, have we received any comment?
We have not received any comments in advance of the meeting.
Online or room? Probably not. That I will close the public hearing and in fact have a motion for adoption of form of contract plans and specifications and estimated costs.
So
Second.
Vote on that.
Oh, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign opposed? I do that every time it's all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a, oh, this,
You've got to approve the form of contract before you talk about.
sorry, man.
Just the bins.
well, I meant more to it, if it's all in favor, aye, do I still have to do same signs?
Oh, no, I think.
Okay.
It's clear for the minutes what the vote was.
Okay. Motion carries, okay.
So analysis of bids, Alec, this is our contract 6, 2023 Des Moines Waterworks, Des Moines Water Main Replacement Contract 6. There's a map of the attached of the facilities that we're going to replace. We did receive 5 bids in this contract. The low bid is from MPS Engineers, just over 794,000 compared to a bid or engineer's estimate of 917,000. So we continue to get very good bids, at least our pipeline contracts. And MPS has completed projects for us in the past, and we would recommend that the board award contract to MPS. So now you need to get a motion to award 2023 water main replacement contract project.
No questions or discussion, can I have a motion to award the 2023 Des Moines Waterworks Main Replacement Contract number 6 project, the amount of $794,239 to MPS Engineers PC and authorize the chairperson and CPO and general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second
This is what she's done.
question.
Yes.
Have we used MPS before? Because I mean, I see some of the other names we've used a lot with the $12,000 difference in 3 bids. Are we comfortable with that vendor?
I am, but I would, I guess, defer to engineering if there's.
Yeah, I can't recall the last time we recorded the contract, but been involved with MPS in specific point contracts, I'd say the first one. And again, we found a way to be successful on those contracts, they have a certain challenges too, but we have a strong enough relationship with them.
When it's that close, $12,000, and you think about the amount of time and when you say, what were your words, Mike, that you said we figured out ways to work around it? I just want to make sure that this staff knows that if there is ever a $6,000, $12,000 difference, but it's going to save the utility time and effort, I certainly want to hear about it because Yes, we'll award low bid, but we don't have to if there are other reasons such as references, et cetera.
In this instance, there are conversations like that that are occurring. We're not ready as staff to bring that. It was-
Thank you.
But that's on our mind and we appreciate the support.
Well, and on that, I guess on the flip side of that, it is good to have supplier diversification. So if
is.
we can, more suppliers that we're comfortable with, that gives us more bargaining power. So it's not a black and white decision. It's kind of a nuance, but. Okay, so any other questions? Otherwise, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Okay, we'll move on to item 3H. 2024 PCPS Aquifer Storage and Recovery Well Bid Package Well Construction. Well Bid Package 1, Well Construction. Oh, okay. And this is a public hearing, so I'll now open the public hearing for comments from the public regarding the form of contract plans and specifications and estimated costs. Have you received any comments?
We have not received any comments prior to the meeting.
Anyone online or in the room? See none, I will close the hearing. Finding that no facility of the kind to be how do I word this? Sorry.
Well, you can just say that the finding is attached.
Okay, and then we have a finding that no facility of the kind to be constructed is available for rent or sharing from another agency, and that agency is attached to the packet. And I have a motion for adoption of form of contract plans and specifications and estimated cost.
So moved.
Second.
Carries.
We'll vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, now motion carries.
Analysis of bids, Alex, this is the bid just to drill the well at our new aquifer storage and recovery site, which is going to be located at the Polk County Pumping Station. You'll recall that last month we actually delayed the public hearing, the bid and awarded this project because we had heard from the contractors, well drilling contractors, that they needed more time. As a very busy time. They needed some additional time to bid the project, so we delayed it 1 month until today. We did get 2 bids, which is positive. The bids are both bids. They're close, but they're significantly above the estimate. The engineer's estimate on this project was 4.1 million for this well, and the low bid is about 5.1 million. So we've had quite a bit of conversation about these bids and what to do with them. Are they good bids? Is it appropriate to award? We are aware that there's quite a bit of this kind of work. We're also aware that both of these contractors submitted bids in the $5 million range for another project that was bid just in the last month. And we're also aware that this is the first of 3 ASR wells that are likely to be bid within the year. We think it's prudent for us to get in the queue, to get in line. This is a critically important project to us from a capacity expansion perspective. We do not believe that by rejecting these bids and delaying that we will get better bids, and certainly will not improve the timeline of getting this project done. So staff is recommending that we move ahead with award of this contract in spite of the fact that it's significantly over the engineer's estimate. We would recommend award.
I have a motion to award the 2024 PCPS Aquifer Storage and Recovery Well Bid Package 1 Well Construction Project, Lane Christensen Company, in the amount of $5,092,345, and authorize the chairperson and CEO and general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second. So. I've got a quick question. One, we talked about before. The fact that there are more ASRs being built in the area. We're not, and this was answered, but I'm asking it again. We're not overbuilding ASRs in our region, are we?
We don't believe we are. Graham, there's some specific language in the regional 2080 agreement that limits the number of ASRs that can be built in the region.
Based on what?
Based on the ability to refill them effectively and have them be ready for the coming year. In the wintertime, just the capacity of our treatment plants is reduced with colder water.
Sure.
We're taking facilities out of service to do maintenance and repair on those facilities during our lower demand times of year, which is the winter. And then we have this additional demand that we're placing on the system to refill these ASRs. And so we've put some restrictions in there in terms of how many ASR wells can be built. And this one and the other two that I anticipate or that we anticipate will be bid yet this year or within the next year, let's put it that way. Those are the last ones that can be built according to those guidelines before we expand capacity in the metro. So we're getting close, but we don't think we're overbuilding. Kyle, I don't know if you would add any color to that.
These three had been planned even before last year, were underway and designed, so with our treatment expansion that's happening in Saleco plant, that will also, right, so it takes almost 3 years for these ASR wells, something about that, right, also the next expansion. We are getting close, so that's why we got that limit.
And it's the risk of overbuilding, just you're spending money building something you don't have the capacity to fill, or are there other risks associated with that?
It becomes an operational challenge. Once we go slow the plants down, do our maintenance. So we have a challenge to get the maintenance done. We're not able to fill them. Get the best benefit out of those. Yes, well, take 6 months to build them.
We believe there's still benefit. I mean, our goal is to get 300 million gallons in storage at each site. And if we get 300 million gallons in storage, then we have the ability to recover from that well for about 90 days during the summertime, which is usually our peak time. This happens within a 90-day window. Now, today we're recovering from ASR wells because of nitrate issues. So there are other benefits other than just peak. And there are other benefits if you can't get the whole 90 days worth of storage in there. Say you only were able to get 60 days. Well, at least you can shave that peak for 60 days. But we're hopeful that, the plan is, our expectation is that as the system grows, that we'll have the capacity to fill them. But we are going to manage that pretty carefully. Make sure that we don't overbuild the system, if you will. But there could be some time initially, if all three of these get built before the new treatment plant expansion is online. As a region, we may not be able to fill every single ASR well full until the new treatment plant comes up. Then we should do it.
And there's not any operational or quality or environmental issues if you don't fill it. It's just, so it's mostly just unused capacity that you're paying for.
Well, it's kind of unrealized storage capacity. I don't know that you've paid for the well. There isn't any cost associated with not having the water down there. It's just
Right.
lost of the ability to recover the water.
And then the other thing that I was just gonna mention, and you answered this as well, but this is another bid with 2 bidders, but obviously this is a small environment of contractors that are available to do this work.
Yeah.
We should all rightfully be concerned about being over budget on this item, but I think you've explained that of why we should accept this, and so I can support it. I don't like it,
Yeah,
but I'll support it.
it's frankly, it's a lot over the estimate.
It's a lot over the estimate.
It's 25% over, that's $1 million.
All right.
And at the end of the day, that's gonna be, this might be a $10 million well by the time this thing's all said and done with the building and everything. But that's still about the fourth of the cost of buying into more treatment plant capacity. So there's still value there. And believe me, we've had all those discussions, but we're still recommending that.
I support it.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Carries. Let's vote on to the last public hearing, item agenda 3I, Mid-American Energy Company Underground Electric Easement at Des Moines Waterworks Grounds Maintenance Facility.
Alec, we're building a grounds maintenance facility and we need electric service to that facility, and Mid-American needs an easement that will allow them to operate and maintain the electric service from the street into where the transformer will be set. And so we're just asking the board to authorize execution of that easement once it's completed. We've got it pretty well done, but there's some details to iron out between what Mid-American had proposed and what the city requirements are for that site. We'll get those ironed out. We just need permission from the board to execute that easement once those details are complete. Yes, this is a public hearing too, so I probably should let you.
Oh. Okay, well, thanks. Well,
Slightly different.
yeah, right. I'll now open the public hearing for comments from the public regarding the granting of an easement to Mid-American Energy Company across Waterworks Real Estate. Have we received any comments on
We
this?
have received no comments before the meeting.
Okay, anyone online or in the room? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Can I have a motion to authorize the chairperson, CEO, and general manager to execute the document granting an underground electric easement to Mid-American Energy Company at the Des Moines Waterworks Grounds Maintenance Facility?
So moved.
Second,
All in,
I have a question. Sure. So, I mean, why does Mid-American have to have an easement? I'm sure there's a logical reason, but is this because of the underground?
Well, it's because it's underground.
Yeah, they need this primary, so there's gonna be a transformer that's installed on the property.
Right.
It's a transformer to the electricity and operating facility. There's primary cable that comes up with that, supply cable that comes from the transformer. That is, they will operate and maintain that. So we would give them
Oh, I see,
a narrow path where they've got rights and access
to the transformer.
to the transformer and the cables that are underground leading up to it.
Got it.
So this is not uncommon, because this is the Northwest 26th Street Station. We've done a little bit of coordination here that probably didn't go as well as we would like. Got some requirements for the city that contradict ideally what the American law, so a couple of things to iron out.
Thank you.
else? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries. On to item 3J, 2024 FWTP 5 kilovolt system upgrades, control system replacement.
Alec, we've got a very important piece of equipment down at the fluid drive treatment plant. The generator, the emergency generator that we use to supply power if utility is out, or to curtail when Mid-American asks us to shed electric load, or even just to stabilize our power feed during a storm. That equipment is controlled by some electrical gear down there that has been in place for a number of years, and it's time to replace it. So we hired KFI engineers some time ago to do a comprehensive study of that whole 5,000 volt electrical system down there. They've suggested that we do a number of things to enhance or upgrade that system, kind of bring it into current technology. And this is one of the first things we want to do, replace that power control equipment that provides control to that generator, the switch gear that kind of switches power between utility and generator and helps parallel those things. So those controls are what we're proposing to replace. This project is actually a project to build the new control cabinets with all new up-to-date electronics inside, and then there'll be another contract for installation of that new cabinet once it's fabricated. So this is actually for construction or fabrication of that control equipment. The engineer's estimate for the project was 370,000. The low bid is 403, so a little over the estimate, but not too bad. This is not the kind of work that we do on a regular basis. We don't have a lot of 5 kV electrical control systems at the plant, and so we have not actually worked with these contractors before, but KFI, the consulting firm who does a lot of this kind of work around the state, has worked with them and has great faith in them, has given us indication that they believe they're more than capable of completing this project, which they designed for us. So we are recommending that the board award this contract.
Okay, can I have a motion to award the 2024 Fluor Drive Water Treatment Plant 5K system upgrades control system replacement project to Robusys in the amount of $403,548 and authorize the chairperson and CEO and general manager to execute the contract.
So moved.
Second.
I do have a question. We all know where the generator is. We've seen it. I mean, I'm sure this is very important. I'm just curious, and I've always wanted to know this. How many times a year does that generator kick on? Or do we sometimes start it just to make sure it's gonna work?
I'll comment. I would say we use the generator two roles. First is the curtailment function. And we have an agreement with Good American Energy as a large
Yes.
user to participate in the curtailment program. They can call us up to 16 times a year, I believe, or 6-hour window each time. They don't always call us 16 times a year. I think they've been tending to get closer to that in recent years. Used to be about 1 or 2. They're realizing that they can get some benefit from the larger question. Then the second function is just the power loss. And
Right.
I don't know, Kyle, we might go a year and have one event, or we might have 2 or 3 in a year.
Certainly depends on the plant. This plant having 2 feeds of American Energy provides a little more reliability, for the other plants only having 1 feed of American Energy. So for example, last week,
Mhm.
generators of the other plants ran up times last week. So again, nice go on a short period.
Thank you.
Yeah, those together, maybe 20 times a year, based upon different motivations.
I've just always wanted to know, it had nothing to do with this bid, but it's important. Yeah. Sure, thank you.
I know you say we haven't worked, we don't do this work a lot, haven't worked with these contractors and I'm assuming there was an RFP process. Was it sent to anyone that we have worked in the past with who didn't provide a bid?
I believe so. Did we have Russell and ASCO on the list?
Yeah.
Okay, there might have been a couple others, so. I can't remember how many.
We sent it to 5.
Okay.
And some of it was tied, they deserved to be busy. And then run something by sea.
Questions, otherwise, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That includes all our action items, so we can move on to information, board committee reports. So I'll hand it over to myself for finance and audit. Which luckily was one where we kind of already talked about it as an agenda item in our meeting. We talked about the changes to the spending authority, so that was a good discussion. I'm glad to see. Thank you to staff for kind of working through it. You know, hopefully it's positive changes, and I'm glad to hear the board's supported too. Yeah, that was really all we covered. Did we have anything else, Amy?
No.
Okay. Normally, that's the only thing I have to worry about for these meetings, so I'm a little like. All right, let's go on to the planning committee.
Planning committee, we had a very informative discussion and presentation on energy and our energy use here, and I'm not gonna do any type of service to being able to repeat what was said there. You should review those materials if you have an opportunity, because what Des Moines Waterworks has done is truly remarkable. I mean, we're like the one of one in the
Yeah,
country
that's right.
that has done this type of energy conservation. And you think about the tornadoes and the weather changes that we've seen just this year and what's going on, and what Des Moines Waterworks has proven it can do to reduce energy use and, which will combat global warming and lots of other things is amazing. I mean, even Bill Bluebaugh is driving an electric truck. He's got the first F-150 that he's driving to see if that makes sense. It's a pickup, and maybe we have a fleet of electric trucks that we begin to use, but that kind of testing and forward thinking, it's taken a lot of work and it's taken a huge investment in Des Moines Waterworks, but the truth of the matter is, I kind of left the meeting wondering why we're the only ones that are doing it. Because we have proven that we can save our customers money, we can, we're not, I mean, we have to put money in up front, but you're gonna use less electricity, you're gonna use less power. It baffles me a little bit why we're the only one. What have I had?
And I wasn't able to attend, so maybe just quick couple of
Sure.
whoever wants to.
Sure.
Just curious.
A couple of things, what specifically?
What we're doing.
What we're doing, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, there's kind of two categories of things I would say, like, we've done a lot of stuff just in the office buildings, so, motion sensors and LED lighting and, systems to monitor temperature and, adjust the temperature so that you're not heating things or cooling things that you don't need to. So just a lot of that kind of thing. But probably the things that save us a lot more money are premium efficiency motors, variable frequency drives on motors. We used to have a lot of pumps that pumped against partially closed valves to, make the system function exactly the way we wanted to, but that partially closed valve burned power to get us where we wanted to be. Now we can just slow the motor down a little bit to get us where we want to be. So that saves us money. Just monitoring, a lot of monitoring equipment, a lot of measuring, electrical meters that help us identify that, hey, this used to be running very efficiently and now it's not. Why is it not? The thing that I think is the coolest, and then I'll probably let Kyle and others talk about what they think, but one of the things I think is the coolest about this program is you go through a process of modeling what your energy usage is going to be. So you consider a number of factors, how much water you're producing, what the temperature is, other things, and you model exactly what your energy usage is going to be. And then it's amazing how closely the energy usage matches the model. It's a fairly sophisticated model. And then every year you model what it would have been without the improvements that you've made. And then you chart the actual usage against that modeled usage, and then you measure that difference. And this is a national program that companies it's an international, companies around the world use. And this modeling software and this comparison is very standardized, and it's not something that we made up. It's something that the Department of Energy recognizes as real change in your energy demand. And ISO, which is the International Standards Organization's ISO 50001 is the standard that we're certified to. They recognize this methodology. We have to have a team of people come here every year and audit our process. And I mean, once in a while we'll get a minor non-conformity, like when you filed your document, you didn't file the appropriate file it with the form, so you get a minor. I mean, they look at detail. It's an amazing program, and the amount of energy that we've saved over the years is measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the amount of carbon footprint reduction is measured in tens of thousands of tons. So as Graham said, it's all in the materials. It would be interesting to share or to take a look at. But Kyle, I don't know if you have anything that you would add, or Mike, from you guys' experience with this program.
Covered it well. We've done a lot of improvements in the last several years. BMTs have been adding a lot of energy monitors. Energy monitors let us track each pump. Larger pumps, we can see the impellers are starting to fail. Very important. It's getting more and more difficult as we've got easier vote. It's gonna be more challenging. It certainly has paid off. All the thing we invest more, we gain back.
Yeah, like I do think as an engineer, you would have fun if you spent a little time with Kyle and Doug and kind of got a mini presentation on this because it is interesting. I mean, the modeling alone, of course, is over my head because I'm not an engineer. Math is not my thing, but I mean, that kind of tracking and then the pump thing, the fact that they can buy these more efficient pumps that are going to save us energy over time. Opens up a whole other bunch of questions, which you'll automatically answer about the way we standardize those things and we do those things. So if you take a little time, I think the engineer in you would appreciate the time.
A lot of engineering these days.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I think you'd like it because it's really fascinating stuff and it's good work. And the getting certified is great. We can talk about it and it's a feather in our cap and it's a wonderful thing, but the real important thing about being certified to me is that we are the leader in proving that you can do this and there's real benefit and payback, not only for your customers, but for the planet in doing that. So the certification is a hassle to go through, but it's meaningful in that hopefully others will follow the lead.
Sorry, I missed the meeting.
Yeah, no, it's right up your alley.
Also related, this just made me think, it's not truly related, but talking about water and power, there was a hydroelectric dam announced. How does that impact us? Do we have a involvement with it?
Well, interestingly enough, we were made aware that there was a permit has been applied for to construct a hydroelectric facility at the Saylorville Dam. And there was no consultation with us before it was submitted, but there's opportunity to provide public comment. And so we certainly intend to provide comment, probably working with John on, hey, just be aware that we have this agreement and we have ownership rights to a certain amount of quantity of water, and we have the right to ask for it to be released. And just need to take all that into consideration while you're determining whether you're going to allow this company to build a hydroelectric facility as part of Saylorville Dam. Now, whether or not they will do it or not is still very much up in the air. Interestingly enough, Bill Smith, who is the interim, thank you, Sue, executive director for Central Iowa Water Works, has a lot of experience with this exact kind of thing, having come from the electrical industry. And so given that facility will be transitioning to Central Iowa Water Works, that contract with the Corps, we're going to work with him too and try to take advantage of his experience, and we're going to provide public comment. But we are going to ensure that if they do anything in terms of hydroelectric power at Saylorville, it's not going to negatively impact our ability to use what we have rights to in Saylorville Reservoir from a water supply perspective. Interesting.
I was just curious. Okay, well, let's move on to item B, board member reports, Central Iowa Water Works Board.
Yes, we've had 2 meetings now. Diane has been elected to the executive committee. And I have just been appointed to the Finance and Audit Committee, which I'm very happy about. We're moving along well. I know Ted just mentioned Bill Smith. He is our interim director. I think it was important to those that were on the search committee to say that if we were going to have an interim, that we wanted to make sure it was someone who would not be interested in being full-time CEO, general manager. And Bill is semi-retired, I will say, and a lot of work in utilities, and I think he's doing a great job. I know when a small group met with him, they said there were several things that he brought up that needed to be done in fairly short term that made them realize, yeah, maybe it is good that we have someone, in charge of this. But the main thing that I want to make sure that everyone on the board knows is there has been such support by our staff, Amy, Alyssa, Ted, and I'm sure many others with the technical advisory committee. But there's a huge amount of respect for Des Moines Waterworks among this board and appreciation. And so I think we're really off on the right track to, do what we need to do to plan for the resources that we need for water in central Iowa. And the people that are on the board are there for a good reason. They all have, their own communities at heart, but they also know that we're much better when we do it together. So if there's any questions, so far we've done a lot of the basic housekeeping kinds of things with putting in place, insurance contracts and legal support. And you've seen what the agendas have been, but we are meeting out at the Recplex, which is a great place right off the interstate for the folks that are coming in, like from Norwalk or Waukee. They're just right there. And I think we're going to continue to meet there for some period of time. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it.
Questions? Thank you.
And it says that, Ted, you mentioned it to me the other day, we made our initial capital contribution, which was how much?
It is 800 and
But you, soon,
right. Yeah, we wanted to share with this board.
Right.
That we are going to be making it, and it was budgeted, and it is the same as was budgeted, and other communities have begun making theirs. We do now have a bank account, or I guess I can say, Central Iowa Waterworks does now have a bank account that we can put those funds in,
Bankers Trust.
Bankers Trust.
and remind me, Amy, once all the communities make their initial contribution, Central Iowa Waterworks has how much? $2 million. To pay for its expenses, interim director of insurance, search, that kind of stuff.
One thing I would add is that Des Moines Waterworks was asked to serve as interim financial services.
They're going to pay us hourly.
Okay, let's move on to Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden Board.
I don't have really anything to report.
And the Des Moines Waterworks Park Foundation.
See, Pat is online with Andrea gone. Maybe Pat can give us.
Yeah, I can give a quick update. Since the last board meeting, things have certainly picked up steam. We've had 2 major concerts so far. Back on May 11th was Cake, and that had about 6,000 people. And then just last Saturday, I think, was Willie Nelson. I didn't hear the final numbers, but I heard it was supposed to be around 4,000. Haven't heard anything bad about any of those events, so seems like things are off to a good start. Fortunately, the rain and flooding has stayed away, even though it gave us a little bit of a scare. We've also had a few smaller events. And then coming up, a big one's going to be Robert Plant on June 11th, and then John Party and REO Speedwagon. All of those events are scheduled for June. All of them will be fairly large concerts, so that's kind of exciting. We also talked about hiring a permanent executive director. I think they're expecting to have more information at the next meeting in June, so hopefully Andrea will have an update on that next month. And other than that, feel free to, I think a lot of the details, there wasn't much at the last board meeting, but they're in the board packet. So if you wanted to take a gander, they're there for you.
Great, thanks, Pat. I hope everyone's excited for Knot Fest. I am. So.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
A lot of people are. A lot of people are very excited.
Okay, let's move on to CEO and general managers comments.
A couple things, Alec. One, I would share the flooding that we had in the park. We did have the back of the park closed. Most of the park west of 30th Street was closed due to flooding. The water has receded. Jessica and her crew have been out cleaning the roads, getting things open back up. In the far back loop, we had a pretty good sized cottonwood that fell onto the road, probably due to both flooding and storm. The ground got saturated and it just tipped that over, which is sad. It was a 200-year-old tree. the park, but they've gotten that cleaned up too. And here in the next day or so, the full park will be back open. George Flag is open. Pat mentioned it too, that they're even due to even given the flooding that we've experienced and all the rain we've had, the venue has held up very well. You know, the amphitheater in that area where the concerts were is held up well, which is great to see now that it's finally getting well established, and we can have some concerts and not tear it up. So that's positive. The other thing that I would share is that nitrates are looking like they're going to become very problematic this spring. We are dealing with nitrate concentrations in all of our river sources and even in the gallery that are higher than we've dealt with for a number of years. We are running the nitrate removal facility. I talked to Nathan this morning and he said they're running 5 of the 8 vessels. And that's without having to take any river water. We're on all gallery here at the Fluid Drive plant. So we're doing the things that we can do, which includes maximizing the Fluid Drive plant and the Saylorville plant, using some of our nitrate removal capacity. We also have been running one of our ASR wells to just limit the amount of water that we have to produce here, so we don't have to deal with as much high nitrate water. Got a couple more ASR wells in reserve that we could potentially use, but of course, when we use them for nitrates, we don't have them for peak. We have a couple more vessels that we can put online. I reached out to West Des Moines and asked them if there was any way that they could maximize production at their plant, bleed water into areas that they don't normally serve with their plant, just to kind of reduce the need for supply from us. We may even ultimately be reaching out to our regional partners and asking them to start their ASR wells to help us reduce demand and keep us from having to use a lot of river water or any river water. Ultimately, we may get to the point, we're not to this point yet, but just to make the board aware, we may get to the point where we would even consider asking customers to consider holding off on turning on their irrigation systems so that they're not starting to drive demand up like we normally see in June and July. Give us some time to get past the nitrate season. We're not there yet. Melissa and I have been talking a lot. I'm going to meet with the team tomorrow about what's the message, how are we going to message this to the public. We don't want people to be surprised 2 weeks from now when we come at them with, hey, can you hold off a little bit? But we want people to be aware, and nitrates are going to be a big problem in all likelihood this year. So those are my CEO comments, Alec. Unless someone has questions, I'd be happy to move on to a couple of things.
And I do want to mention, Ted brought up the whole nitrate issue last week at the board meeting. And I think this is where, we have stronger voices talking about the nitrate issue with all of our regional customers understanding the impact. So I thought you did a nice job in raising the flag and saying, hey, be aware, this is what we're all dealing with.
They're all at the table now. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
A couple other things. The safety update this month is in the packet, and then we're focusing this month on our leading indicators. We're focusing on leading indicators more generally. Last couple of years, we focused on near misses. This year, we've added job site observations and some static inspections. Just those are opportunities for staff to get out and do an inspection of a site and identify potential opportunities for improvement, that kind of thing. We're trying to collect a sum total of 200 of those leading indicators this year. We're at 48 so far, so we've got some work to do for sure, but we're starting to make progress and starting to see some benefit from those, I would say, in terms of awareness of safety and people being willing to participate in those. So we're going to keep working on that. And then a new item in the board packet this month is our Des Moines Waterworks Community Outreach Update. We got some feedback that there were a couple of our outreach events that happened that there wasn't broad awareness of. Specifically, one of the things in here was the mayoral proclamation for Drinking Water Week. Bill was able to attend that with Amy and Dee Clark when the mayor read the proclamation recognizing Drinking Water Week. So we're gonna just start putting in the board packet, kind of a list of the things we've got upcoming. A couple that I would highlight for the board, we're gonna be doing a conservation on tap event on June 13th at Confluence Brewery. I know Alec made it to one of those last year. It's just it's an opportunity to visit with, in some cases, agricultural producers, but oftentimes community members about water quality and conservation. And it's kind of a fun time. Sponsored by Iowa Learning Farms. And then another one that I just would make the board aware of is on June 23rd, the Park Foundation is going to host a Neighborhood Appreciation Day here in the park, and they're going to be inviting park neighbors. Think people who can hear the concerts, even if they don't have tickets. They're going to invite those people to a Park Appreciation Day and just kind of have a thank you event, and the board will be invited to that if you're interested in attending, but that'll be June 23rd at the beer garden, actually. So there are several other things in there. Just public outreach sorts of things that Melissa manages for us. And that's it.
Great. Being our contract status and professional service agreements.
It's there. If anyone has questions, I'd be happy to address those, but otherwise it's there for review.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, nice. I'm assuming I'm seeking a motion to adjourn.
So
You did it.
I did.
You made it. Good work.
Question.
There's a funny. So
Tomorrow.
when we were going over this, I was like, oh, interesting. They have a separate colored paper for the public hearing. And then I just realized, no, that just actually has